Today is all about the slicer tomatoes that I'm growing in my garden this year. Hey friends, welcome back to Mustard Seed Homesteading. My name is Megan, and if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by because today what I want to do is focus on all the different slicer tomato varieties that are growing in the garden this year. Just like I shared last week, all of the different pepper varieties that are growing in my garden, and then just a couple of days ago, I shared all the different plum tomato varieties that are in my garden. I thought it'd be a great idea to also share the slicer tomato varieties that are growing in my garden as well, because I have two raised beds that are dedicated to just slicer tomatoes, and I do have a couple of varieties, not too many, that are growing in the green stalks as well. And because I give weekly garden tours as well as green stalk garden tours twice a month, I just thought it would be really nice to share all these varieties so that as you're watching the progress of everything growing, you know exactly what they are. As we go through the beds, I will also put a picture of that tomato on the screen so that you can see what it looks like. All right, we're going to get going here. I'm going to show you all the tomato varieties in these beds because it is evening time, which is my favorite time to film a video because it's not too hot. However, the sun is starting to come down, so I am on a bit of a time crunch, but I want to make sure that I share everything that's growing here, so let's get going. By the way, friends, I have string lights in the back of the garden. I do want to add some more throughout the backyard because it just makes it so pretty and peaceful and just very whimsical. So here are the two raised beds that are all of my slicer tomatoes. These four beds are all of my plum tomatoes, which I shared in the last video, but I like to have two beds just for slicer tomatoes. First thing I want to point out before we go through the varieties is all of my tomato beds, including the plum tomatoes, have basil all around the edges. I do that every year because it is a great companion for my tomatoes in my experience, and every bed for the most part has a different variety. This bed has majority of the Italian large leaf, and I say majority because sometimes, let's say a basil doesn't do well, but I have an extra Thai basil or I have an extra lemon basil, I will stick that in there. But for the most part, this is the Italian large leaf. And then this basil over here is the mammoth basil. I actually had this in my other bed with the Martina Romas, and they just did not do good. They fried, they got brown, I think because that bed got a lot more sun. So I'm putting them over here to see how they do this year. We're going to talk about this bed first, and we're going to work our way from this side all the way down. I definitely want to talk about this tomato plant at the very end. This is the Ace 55. Friends, when I tell you this is one of my favorite bushing slicing tomatoes, Ace 55 hands down is the best. And I say that because this tomato plant doesn't get super large and it produces really good sized tomatoes. I also put it at the very end because while these grow massively big in the middle, I try to put some sort of a determinant or a bushing tomato at the ends. So these next two tomatoes are new tomatoes. I will put the picture right here, but it is the Mountain Princess tomato. It looked like a lot of fun. When I read the description, it sounded like it would be a really good fit for my garden, so we are trying these out this year. As well as the old German tomato. Now, I think I might have tried this last year and it didn't do very well. So a lot of these are new varieties, but some of them are newer varieties, meaning that I've tried them before, but they may not have done very well, so I'm trying them again. Because you know me, I don't like to give up easily. Now this one is for sure a brand new variety. This is the Great White Tomato. I will say on the packet, it looked very interesting, which is another reason why I want to try to grow it. And I believe that this one was the M.I. Gardner seed packet because I bought a lot of M.I. Gardner tomato seeds, and friends, I still haven't tried all of them, and I believe this is one of them. And then this next one is the Brandy Wine Tomato, and I'm very excited about trying this because the color of the tomato is just so beautiful. And And we have German Johnson. Now this is a tomato that I tried last year that I didn't get the best results, so we are definitely going to be trying this one again. And then this next one is the Aunt Ruby German green tomato. That's a mouthful, friends. But I have not tried this one at all, so I figured, you know what, now's the time to try it. Now these next two, and by the way friends, every time I share the variety, it's pretty much these two squares. That's why I only have one tag right here. But this next one is the watermelon beef tomato. I actually tried that, I want to say the first year or second year I ever gardened, and I think I only got one tomato and I wasn't happy with it. So I want to try these again because they look absolutely beautiful on the seed packet. So we are going to attempt them again. So the last two right here is Dr. Witchy's. I have never grown Dr. Witchy's, but I've heard great things about this tomato. So I bought the seeds this year and I told myself we are going to try them to see how they grow in the garden. This tomato at the very end, I'm super excited about because I bought a bunch of different varieties from seeds and such. And this is the hybrid Better Boy tomato. I bought a hybrid Better Boy, hybrid Better Boy Plus, and a Lemon Boy hybrid, as well as I think a Lemon Boy hybrid plus as well. Those are a mouthful of words, but I really wanted to see how they grew this year, so I have one at the very end. And something I do want to point out before I share the varieties in this bed, I put 8-foot bamboo sticks in my raised beds for my tomatoes, and what I like to do is let them climb as high as possible, and then what I like to do is train them going back down the bamboo stick, because obviously this is already very high to my waist, and indeterminate tomatoes can grow forever if you let them. And so what I try to do is train them to come climbing back down. I did it last year and it actually worked pretty good. In fact, between these two beds, I actually had plants that were, I didn't even have anything connecting them, but they were kind of like going over to one another and supporting each other. It's kind of cool. So that's kind of what I plan to do this year. At one point, my hubby and I thought about putting cattle panel in the middle for support, but I think it was something that we would have had to have done before we filled the beds. But we also haven't put a ton of thought into it again, just because our schedules have been absolutely insane. Plus, I really do love using the bamboo sticks in there. So we might revisit that again and we might do something next year, I'm not sure. Now for this last bed, at the very end is the Lemon Boy hybrid tomato. So this one is also supposed to be a determinant. So I have this one at the very end, just like the Better Boy tomato. So these next two are actually called Moneymaker tomatoes. Friends, when I tell you these grow so big, I don't mean big as in the tomatoes are big. They're actually a perfect size. They're kind of like anywhere from like a quarter size to maybe like a $50. But what I mean by massive is they grow so many tomatoes, which is probably why they call it Moneymaker. These are one of my favorite ones to grow. The next two is Floridade tomatoes. I've actually grown these before and I've really enjoyed them. I've always gotten a lot of fruit from these two. So I have Floridade right here. Next to the Floridade is the Mariglobe tomato, and I'm growing these again this year because they always seem to do really good as well. I am absolutely going to butcher up this name because this is a new variety and I believe this one was from Baker's Creek, but it is the Wapsapanian. I totally did not say that right. I know I didn't, but as you see with the picture, it is a really beautiful looking tomato, which is why I wanted to try it this year. Then we have Jubilee, just like the Floridade and the Mariglobe. This one also has done very well in my garden, which is why I'm growing it again. This next one is the Blush tomato, and I'm actually trying to use up the seed. It does pretty good, but we'll see how it grows. If it impresses me this year, then yes, I will buy seeds again. I might be butchering up this next name too. It's Estiva F1. Now this one is a new tomato, and I believe I might have gotten this one from Johnny's. I can't remember exactly. However, I wanted to try it out in the garden this year, so this one will also be something that we'll have to see how this goes. When I tell you this next tomato is my favorite, and actually I just realized I only have 2 Martha F1s planted, I'm gonna have to put them in these bags because I have some leftover 8-foot bamboo sticks and these trellises here. So I might actually just put Martha F1s in here. I'm not really sure because at this point I'm just talking out loud. But when I tell you my favorite slicer tomato is the Martha F1, It's the Martha F1. I love this tomato so much. Not only is the tomato so beautiful, and when I mean beautiful, it's this beautiful pinkish blush colored tomato that tastes so good. And friends, they grow so well, and they grow a lot just on one plant. So this one right here, just like the Martina Roma and the San Marzano will always be in my garden, so will the Martha F1. Then we have the Better Boy Hybrid Plus tomato at the very end. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these grow, and I'm also very interested to see which tomato varieties are going to be my favorite this year, other than the Martha F1. I also want to point out that the water grids in my beds have been such a time saver and my absolute favorite. I bought them from Garden in Minutes, and I do have a link in the description below if you want to check them out. Friends, this has saved me so much time in the garden, I can't even begin to tell you. And also having the straw in here, and I didn't mention it during the plum tomato video, but this helps to retain the moisture in these beds so that I don't have to water a lot. But when I do, I just clip it. I clip the hose onto this water grid, and it waters everything. And here's where I would connect the hose to water the entire grid. Now, what I want to put on the screen right now is this quick release connector. I'm probably butchering the name up, but one day I was in the garden and taking the hose off of each one of these water grids, because I have 10 beds back here, and I went to my husband and I'm like, isn't there a way I could do this a little bit quicker? And so I was like, there has to be some sort of a mechanism or device that you can put on the hose that I can quickly take it off the water grid and just connect it to the next one within a matter of seconds. And so he went on Amazon and found that little piece that I showed you on the screen just now. And when I tell you it saves so much time, I am so glad that I came up with that idea and then he found it, because it really does save so much time in the garden. I did want to quickly show you this tomato that I have growing in the green stock. It is called Independent Tomato. So I am testing this out. I can already see a flower on there too. You probably can't see because it's super small, but we are testing this out in the green stock against the trellis. We'll see how this goes. You know what I did want to quickly share before I forget? So a lot of the green stock, so this is the black green stock and the lemonade, and I do have a 3-tier green stock over in that direction, but I am trying out the purple deep tomato, which is a slicer tomato, but friends, it's a bushing tomato. I'm going to leave a picture right here. When I tell you, I thought it was such a beautiful tomato, especially because it's a bushing tomato. I knew I had to try them in the green stalks. I'm really determined to try different bushing variety tomatoes, whether it's plum or slicing or even cherry tomatoes, because I grow a lot in the green stalks, and even in my raised beds, it's just easier to manage when they're smaller or determinant or bushing tomatoes. So I'm trying some new varieties this year, but I'm already thinking of other varieties that I want to buy for next year. And I'm also trying to test out some of the bushing tomatoes with trellises. I don't know if you can see the trellis in between, even though it's more meant for the cucumbers. But even the trellis system over by the green stalks here, and even the Roma tomatoes that I have between the 2 rectangle beds, I'm just trying out different ways to support tomato plants, because I love my bamboo sticks. I love the triangle green trellis that you saw over there in the bag, but I'm just trying to figure out different ways to do things to see what would be easier for me, because as much as I love being out here, life does get busy. So if there's a way that I can do something that saves time or gives these plants support without me having to come out here and constantly stake them up or pick them up, then I'm definitely going to keep trying. All right, I don't know about you, but I love to hear all the different varieties that people are growing in their garden, because there's so much out there that I still don't even know about. And I always say you could be one variety away from a lot of success in your garden. And so my goal is to share all these varieties in case you've never heard of them, or maybe you have and you've been having really good success with them, which is just further confirmation that it's a great tomato. Which, friends, I do want you to leave in the comments below, what is your favorite slicer tomato? What's your favorite one? Which ones may not have done very good for you in the garden, or ones that you are trying again? I would love to hear them in the comments below. Well, friends, I am so glad that you all stopped by, because I love to turn this camera on and share everything that's going on in the garden every week, because I am learning every season and every year something new in my garden, and my goal is to share that with all of you. And I also want you to know that I greatly appreciate every single one of you, and always look forward to seeing you guys every week. And I also want you to remember this, friends. I want you to be encouraged, stay encouraged, and I want you to always stay inspired. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.